Hey everyone, this is Cable Provider here with another episode of Art Block. I got my guest today, a good friend of mine, Batty. I would like to say, Batty, thank you for sitting down for me for the first time, but as you just know, this is the second time we've done this because I forgot to record you the first time we did it.
Oopsies.
I'm sorry about that. It was great conversation, everybody. You had to be there, but we're gonna try to like recapture thunder a second time or light. Batty, talk. How are you?
I'm pretty good right now. I'm Batty, the artist known as on the interwebs. And yeah, I'm doing pretty fine right now.
Glad to hear it, my friend. I brought you on here. You were around when I first came up with the idea for Art Block and what I wanted to do with it.
Yeah. And I did the background.
Oh, you did do the background for Art Block. I forgot.
Yep.
You know what? I don't even have to put any of your art up. This is Batty's art.
No, please don't let that represent my art. Cable. I'll kill you.
I don't know.
I just drew clown vomit, and I'm proud of that clown vomit because it looks pretty. But I do things other than clown vomit.
Tell me about it then. What do you do?
Okay, so I do a lot of different things. As I was talking to Cable before, our recording tragically got botched. I work in a bunch of different mediums, both traditionally and digitally. I write. I have been practicing music to the best of my ability. It's been a journey, but yeah, I work with a lot of different things.
You're kind of a jack of all trades in all the different fields you dabble in. It's honestly impressive how you can what's the right way to phrase this? It's impressive to me, and one of the main reasons I wanted you as a guest, Batty, is you have a pretty good amount of skill that's on display with a lot of the stuff that you do. And I guess, we did this in the last recording. This is probably the best place as any to start again, is I'm usually the most blown away by your actual traditional art, the practical stuff you do. Or when you use watercolors, or when you paint, or when you actually do things with your hands. And I know there's a difference. I don't really do traditional art, and so there's a bit of a part of it I don't understand with that. But what are some of the do you have anything that stands out to you more, doing traditional versus digital, that either makes it easier or harder for you?
I think the thing with me, right, and I'll kind of get into how I do my digital art, because even with that I do traditional. The reason why I still, I guess, work with traditional and haven't made the full switch, and I probably never will, is because I'm a stubborn asshole, and there's just some stuff that I need to fill the paper to understand how it's gonna look. And that's not, some people don't need that, but I definitely do. But on that topic, I do work in digital art, but if you look at most of my digital pieces, especially stuff with line work, all of the line work that you see is done traditionally. And basically my process with that is I use mechanical pencil, and to where a lot of artists, both traditional and digital, they'll have a sketch layer. I don't ever have a sketch layer. What I do is I lightly mark where I want certain things to be, and then I just kind of get right into the line work with that. So a lot of the stuff I do digitally has a sketchy quality, because you can literally see the pencil sketches.
Yeah, and it's not even really a tangent. It's more just a question on that. Why mechanical pencil? Why not just use a regular pencil? Is there a preference?
I used real pencil for years, and I kind of liked it because it was messier. But therein lies why I stopped using it. So I upload stuff to my scanner. I scan it, and then I color it in digitally. That's what I do with a lot of my art, not all of my art, but that's my process. And it also allows me to darken the pencil. But the problem with using normal pencil is they smudge a lot easier. So not only have I stopped completely using normal pencil to line stuff, but I've also stopped using art paper or sketch paper because that's easy to smudge. I just use printer paper and mechanical pencil for most of the line work I do for my stuff.
I never knew that like art paper or sketch paper was easier to smudge, because I used to have sketchbooks and it was like the second I would close it, it would be like half the image was on whatever the previous page that touched it was.
Oh yeah.
But printer paper has been like, you know, you just get a stack of that from like fucking Staples and you're good to go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just how I do most of my art of like just literally mechanical pencil on printer paper, and then I color it traditionally.
Nice.
Or digitally rather, online with brushes, digital brushes.
You have such a unique way of making your art look, and you've been told this multiple times, and I still stand by it too. And if we have anything, we'll talk with Dan. Put little pieces up here if there's stuff you would like, you know, want to show the world what you do. Okay. But you have such a way with like your sketch layers that, or rather your art, rather, because you don't have a sketch layer. Yeah. That it's like a controlled level of messiness, and it's like a thumbprint. Like I can see something and know that's Batty's art.
Oh yeah.
Like, do you feel that you have what people would say a unique style? Like, do you feel you've defined your own style to a point you're happy with?
That's funny that you mentioned that, because I actually do. Because I know like a lot of people develop their art style like this, but I'm no exception. When I first started drawing like cartoons and stuff, right? Basically what I did is I took all of the different pieces from all of my favorite like cartoonists that I thought looked good, and I just kind of combined them together, and then eventually over the time I was able to take what I had learned from that and develop it into my own thing. And that's the thing that artists need to understand, and is a thing with like imposter syndrome and stuff like that. It's okay to like copy off of other artists or trace or do any of that stuff when you're learning. Like that is like perfectly fine thing to do. It's okay to use references. You need to take influences from both the real world and other artists if you want to develop your own style and make it your own thing. And it took years, but I finally got to the point where I can just draw the stuff that I see in my head, and I am kind of happy with how it's developed, and I guess I'm not afraid to say that.
That's pretty good. Like a lot of people sometimes, like even like with art block, it can come from the this just isn't translating the way I want it to, or this doesn't feel me, or this feels too much like somebody else. Like I hear that a lot from a lot of like the people that we know, and like a lot of artists that I know as well, where it's like it's that from head to reality sort of like a disconnect, where it's like this doesn't look like how I imagined it, or this doesn't sound like it. And it's kind of refreshing to hear that what you do looks like how you imagine it to be. And that's a very difficult skill to have honed. Like I don't even have that honed. Like it takes me forever to work on shit.
I'm not even gonna say like I think my style's better than others, because there's like a lot of artists that like I really like and look up to, but it's perfect for me, and that's fine.
I think that's the best way to say it. Like, it's perfect for you, and it works for you, and like every artist has to find that way that works for you, not the way that like the world is doing it, what looks good, what doesn't look good. It's like if you can look at what you do and feel good about what you've done and feel proud about how you did it, I think that's a good way to start developing an own style.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, you have, beyond just like that aspect of art, because art goes into many other mediums.
Yes.
You write, my friend.
I do.
Tell me about that.
So basically, I've always been interested in creative writing, and I've written stuff in the past, like fan fiction, when I was like a teenager and stuff like that. But kind of what occurred is, and well, I also written for comics and stuff too, but like, I have fading motivation. Like I notice it's really hard for me to get motivated with stuff. I think like my, and I know a lot of people are like this, but my ADHD like kind of plays into that. And kind of the idea, I kind of gone back into writing recently, and the reason for that is just purely based off the fact of sometimes I don't feel like drawing. There's sometimes where I don't feel like working on any of my comics, or I don't feel like working on just any like just fun drawings or practicing music or just doing anything. So I was like, okay, so when I don't want to do any of those other creative things, I'll just write. And that's just what I've been doing. And I've been in the process of writing a book. I don't know if it's something I'm going to publish at any point. I would like to, but also like I know like it's probably something that's going to have to be, you know, edited and looked over a lot, but before I feel comfortable with that. But it's definitely like a process. And I don't know if I would recommend this to other people with, you know, ADHD, but it might work for you. When I don't feel like doing, you know, a certain creative outlet or a certain project, when I don't feel like working on them, I'll switch to another one. And when I don't feel like that one, I'll switch to another project I've been working on, and so on and so forth. And juggling projects, you know, again, I don't know if this will work for everybody, but it's the only way I get stuff done. And it's the only way I can work on stuff while being 100% fully invested. Because, you know, I was talking about, you know, in I think the last recording, you know, I also have been working on a comic, which, you know, is my passion project. And the thing that sucks about that is I am halfway into chapter 4, and I don't think I've updated it online in like a year. And, you know, the reason is, you know, it's a lot of time and effort, and I don't want to work on it when I don't feel like working on it, because if I do that, then, you know, the quality of it won't be good. I only want to pursue my art projects when I feel like it. And that's, you know, irresponsible. And, you know, in certain settings that would not fly. Like, you know, I wouldn't recommend people who are employed to do that, because obviously you're going to have deadlines and shit. But, you know, thankfully I don't have to worry about that stuff with most of my art. So, you know, I just juggle projects.
That's, it's interesting too, because I kind of do the same thing where I have like a myriad of uncompleted whips that I just have not finished. Mainly for the part of like, sometimes you just kind of lose the motivation. It's just like, it's not as fun as when you start. But revisiting things is always a good way, at least from my personal take, that it's okay to shelve things and revisit them for when you feel like you're in the mood to do it.
I was, earlier today, I was literally like, man, I really like FEY Anarchy. I want to work on FEY Anarchy. And I doodled a little stuff for FEY Anarchy. And it's like, I, you know, haven't felt that feeling in a long time, but, you know, when it hits, you just got to take advantage of it.
No doubt. And FEY Anarchy is the webcomic you were talking about, right?
Yes, I have a webcomic called FEY Anarchy. Not related to the book that I'm working on, which I don't want to kind of divulge too much about that, but I can talk about FEY Anarchy because the first 3 chapters are online. The
wacky misadventures of Sergio and Matches.
Yes. So basically, what FEY Anarchy originated as, for like a 2 to 3 year period, I think. The only thing that I ever wanted to draw was 2 OCs. You know, the aforementioned Sergio Matches. And just kind of the more I drew them, the more I just kind of thought about the world and, you know, the characters, and, you know, it just kind of developed into like a webcomic. And the premise of which, you have 2 best friends that live in a modern city, mostly comprised of fairy folk. So like from, you know, European mythology, in folklore. I mostly draw from Celtic mythology, but I also take a lot of influence from other parts of Europe too. And just actually that's the weird thing, because not even just European mythology, because fairy lore actually extends like more places than you think it would. Like there's like a lot of what I would and other people would deem fairy lore you see in like places like South America and places like Japan. It's actually kind of a lot more universal than you would think it would be. But yeah, no, it's just kind of the Sergio matches two misadventures throughout the city of fairies. And, I out of everything I worked on, I think it's my favorite thing. But again, it's weird because I don't work on FEY Anarchy a whole lot, and I don't feel like working on FEY Anarchy a whole lot, but it's still my favorite, and those are still my favorite characters.
You have a love for it. It's your brainchild, it's your creation, and it really makes you feel good to work on that when you decide you want to work on it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good way of going about it. And it sounds like a lot of like assistance you would get when coming up with this type of thing is it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong,
yeah,
the desire to come from FEY Anarchy came from a love of two creations that you already had and wanting to expand on them even further and like give more depth. So it's like this little thing that, maybe a couple years ago you wouldn't have even thought twice about because you were just drawing them a bunch, has blossomed into something you're extremely proud of and happy to have your name on.
Oh yeah, definitely. It literally is just a passion project.
Yeah, and the passion's what's needed. Like,
yeah.
People say passion project like it's just this separate side thing, but it's like, no, it's a project you're passionate about. That's what a passion project is. You like it. Even if it's like even if you're redoing the chapters all the time, or even if you've only got 3 chapters out right now, that doesn't take away the fucking, like, the heat that's behind it. And, like, it shows. Like, you do, like, the expressiveness of the characters, the way you do the things, they all look very good in FEY Anarchy, and it's just complemented by your Batty art style of you just have a way with drawing that's very, like, engaging and, like, captivating.
Yeah.
Had I seen your art in middle school, FEY Anarchy would have been, like, everything I was about.
Oh yeah, no, I feel that way about like a lot of like people I'm friends with, like but yeah, no, I'm glad to hear. I'm glad people actually, that's like another thing of like, it's one thing to like the stuff you're working on, which is its own hurdle in and of itself, but it's also reassuring to know that like other people like your stuff.
Yeah.
Even though I don't even know if like FEY Anarchy will be like a published thing in the future, or I don't even know if I'm gonna finish it, but it's definitely something that I'm glad that other people are able to find enjoyment of it in it too.
Would you say as an artist that you feel better not knowing where it's going to end up, or does it sort of like is it difficult for you not knowing where things will be?
It's kind of weird because like, okay, so my goal is to be in a position where I can make a living. I don't want to be, like wealthy necessarily. Like, well, that's weird to say, but like, not that like if I made like $1 million off of FEY Anarchy or my book, I wouldn't take it. But like, the goal that I'm striving for, it's really simple, but for me, I guess it's kind of difficult. Of like, I want to be in a position to where I make a comfortable living, to where I can focus on art and stuff that I want to create, and that's basically just all I want. And if I don't necessarily care if like FEY Anarchy is successful or any of my other projects are successful, but it would be nice if like one thing was just on the basis that like, oh, okay, now I can just work on all these other things in addition to that. It's kind of weird. I don't know if that's like,
I get.
I don't know if that makes sense. necessarily.
It does. You like what you do, and it sounds like you kind of always want the products or the things that you're making to be about the love of what you're doing and not about the money.
Yeah, and it's like like I could get like an art job to where like, and I'm probably gonna do that at some point, but like of like where I make art for other people. And that's the thing too of like I noticed recently I don't mind working on other people's projects. It's just a thing of I would want it to be something that I can also enjoy working on and I can also be passionate about. I don't want to like ideally, and this isn't always the case, but like because just people are thankful enough to get like an art job as it is, but
yeah.
But like it's just like I have a goal in mind. Yeah, I'm not expecting me to meet my goal. I'm just making it simple enough to where this is just what I want out of life, and this is what I want to do.
It sounds like your art like really, and this I mean this is a compliment because it's a very nice thing I would say. It feels to me that your art is just, it's so intertwined with who you are as like a person, like in the mindset of it, where it's like there's almost like a very little to no separation of like Batty the artist versus Batty the working person, or Batty this guy. It's like there's always going to be some sort of like place that you can draw creative influence from, or something you can pull, or a place you can find new passions from. How do you find that for yourself? Like how do you let's to like the heart of what art block is supposed to be about. When you find yourself in positions where it's like, I can't draw from this, or I don't think I'm getting something out of this, or I'm not really enjoying what I'm doing, but this is something I know I want to do. How do you kind of, for lack of a better phrase, how do you give yourself that kick in the ass? Or what's your metaphorical kick in the ass to try to just get out of your rut? Not so much get better, but just take a step out of your rut. How do you do that?
Get out of art block?
Not necessarily get out of art block, but like what are some of the things you do when you feel it like happening? Like, oh, like I don't want to do this. Like, do you step away? I know some people take walks. Some people talk to people like about what they're doing and get back like influences from other people. What do you do?
Okay, so I think I was talking about this earlier, but I do two things. One, I always like juggling projects to where if I don't find motivation to work on my comic, I'll work on my book. When I don't feel motivation to work on my book, I'll practice music and so on and so forth, or work on a painting or just any other thing that I do. But another thing I've noticed, and this helps me, but and when I like have like art block, it's not like I can get over it in an afternoon. It's definitely something that it's longer. It's a which sucks, but it's a a mood that just kind of I guess that just kind of pertains to mental
the nature
stuff.
of the beast.
Yeah, just my brain. But I noticed one thing that also helps me is kind of what you're saying before, stepping back. There's been times where I won't get something, or I won't have motivation for something, and I'll just like not do it for like a week or two, and then I'll be able to kind of when I get back to it. That's something that I notice is definitely like a thing with music, because I practice a couple different musical instruments. I have a banjo. I have a old hand-me-down guitar that I'm glad that still functions. But that's just something I've done on and off for years. But it's always like I don't think musically. Like I love music and I want to make music, but it's a lot of the stuff has been hard for me to comprehend. So for example, if I don't understand how to do this like one thing, or I'm just tired of doing this one thing. I'll just take a step back. I'll come back to it later, and then I won't work through frustration. I think, and it's not just for music, but it's just an example because it's out of all the things that I do, I'm the least skilled with music. But it's just something that I don't think people should work through frustration. We were talking before the other recording got cut. I've restarted the first chapter of FEY Anarchy 3 times. I've redrawn the entire fucking thing 3 fucking times because I was a perfectionist and I didn't like how it was either paced or drawn or what have you. And the second time I redid FEY Anarchy, I hated it more than the first time because that entire experience was me just working through frustration. And that second iteration of FEY Anarchy is very claustrophobic. I tried to fit as much information on the page at once, which is usually, unless you know you're doing it intentionally, it's not a good thing to do with comics. Just everything was just super tiny, and it was just an awful. And I didn't even like draw like half of the scenes. And when I came back to the first chapter of FEY Anarchy for the third time, and I'm actually kind of proud of what I did with that, is I just didn't push myself. I pushed myself in that I would be like, okay, there's this really complex panel I'm gonna draw. I'm gonna have to press through it and learn skills in art that I'm not usually good with. But I didn't push through the frustration. I didn't push through me not getting something, or me being too tired to draw, or me looking at this as something that I have to do. I just did it because I wanted to. And it made, moments where I did have to do something more difficult. Like, for example, there's one page in chapter 1 that I redrew, 3 times over, where it's a giant shot of the city. Sergio Matches and Toby are just walking on the sidewalk, and every time I've redrawn that fucking page, I've gone bigger with it. And I think, the last time I drew that panel, it like, I really had to fucking push myself to get that, but I was motivated to do so. But if I wasn't, then it would have looked like shit. So, yeah.
There's a lot of like heart in what you do, and I like that advice of just not pushing through something. If you really feel like you're just not getting it, like I agree. It's a good time to maybe just take a step back.
Take a step back. Work on something else. Don't feel like working on something else. Just relax, or do something that not watch a show that you like, or just do whatever.
Go talk to somebody. Take a walk. Eat something you really like. There's a lot of merit to that advice, and I think artists can appreciate that. Like, where there's I believe, or at least I feel personally, like the feeling of you gotta constantly have something ready to put out so people can always see what you're doing and have like a product ready, or have something ready, because everybody's waiting to see and they want it yesterday. But
yeah,
that's how you make fast art. And what I wanted to talk about with you, and which I'm happy we did get to discuss, is how do you make something that you yourself feel happy about, and that you can look at it and like say, maybe it's not the greatest thing under the world. Maybe I learned as I was going along. I did little things here that were different than I usually do. I tried something here. But to get that nice, good feeling you get when you can look back at like a finished piece, before like 3 minutes later when you see 9 things you don't like and get mad at it. But those 3 minutes before you get angry, like those 3 minutes when it's like, wow, I did a pretty good job.
It is the worst thing to like post something online and you're like, oh god, I forgot to color the arm, or some dumb shit but no, like stuff that nobody's gonna notice, but you notice.
I'll leave this
yeah.
little thing here because it's actually kind of funny.
Yeah.
I don't mean to jump.
Oh
in
yeah,
on
no,
it.
you're fine.
I forget to color things a lot, like on layers when I
yeah.
do it. So what I started doing is I render everything as a PNG.
Yeah.
Or actually, I render everything like as a JPEG.
Yeah.
But then I will turn off the canvas background wherever I'm drawing because it'll default fill everything in with white.
Oh yeah.
So in the off chance I've forgotten to color an eye or color an earring or make these shoelaces white or do this, that, it just kind of fixes my problems for me. But I know what I didn't do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. But yeah, as far as like that, like warm, like fuzzy feeling you feel inside when you look at your art, you're like, man, that. I don't know if it was on this recording, last one. I have a bad memory. But like, I am at a point to where I am happy with the art that I make. When I draw something, it's the way that I see it in my head. I think my art style is a good like representation of my personality, and I'm not saying like, you know, I don't have, you know, any room to improve, but you know, there's always going to be stuff that I'm going to want to improve and develop my style. But as of now, I can draw something and be happy with it. And the times when I'm not happy with stuff that I draw is the times when I'm frustrated or tired or I don't want to work on something. So that's why I don't like forcing myself to do art. So to avoid that, I only draw when I feel like it, which sucks because, you know, sometimes I don't have any motivation to do anything, which is horrible, and everybody has to go through with it. But, you know, like, I have enough systems in place that I want to feel proud of my work.
And I think that's really all that needs to be said about it, is this is a very hard sort of like thing that you, me, anybody who would be listening to this, anything in the world, like, we're not doing something that's easy. It takes a lot, and it can sometimes feel very vulnerable because art's a very personal medium.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, it is definitely a thing of like, I was thinking about this, right? And something I realized within the past couple years that I never realized. So a lot of people have like self-insert characters, and they do that intentionally. And I realized recently that, you know, it's always good to have like a little bit of yourself in any character that you make, that, you know, you can empathize with them to some extent. Even like, you know, I'm not saying doing this with every like character somebody makes, but even like villains sometimes, if you give them like some aspect about yourself that you find relatable or some quirk, it like not necessarily makes them more like sympathetic, but like I think there's something to be said of putting yourself into your characters. You know, some people are more blatant about than others. I am not as blatant, but I realized that Sergio matches were representations, and I didn't do this intentionally, of two very, I guess, different aspects of my own personality. And that's not just what the characters are, because obviously I have other influences, but that inspired different parts about them. But with Sergio, right, he is very anxious. He's very, he overthinks things. He is kind of outgoing within, like, you know, when he's around people that he trusts, but he really doesn't, like, has a hard time talking with people outside of, you know, people that he knows. Match is definitely more, she's more boisterous. She's loud. She's kind of crazy, but, and, you know, she doesn't overthink things. She's very, what's the word?
Fly by night.
Yeah, like she'll do things without thinking. Um, and there's like a, a good thing to both personalities, but like I kind of have, I think the reason why they're like that is just because of myself in different situations. Because when I guess in some situations, if I'm not comfortable around somebody or I'm stressed out, because I guess social anxiety is the best word for it, but I'm not always comfortable in every situation. And a lot of time I see more like Sergio, I guess, type mindset pop out to where I'm very like, I guess, untrustworthy, or like I think people hate me when they don't, or shit like that, right? But then like obviously, when I talk in like group chats or like I'm around like people that I know, I'll probably, more matches will come out. I guess everybody like kind of has that like double-sidedness to themselves, because you're not, there isn't one you. You're always going to be different depending on who you're around. But it's just funny because like I hope other people kind of find them relatable because of that. But it's just funny because I never kind of realized that, but that is just something I think about often because I am a very excitable person, but I'm also very anxious, and it really just comes out depending on who I'm around and what situation I'm in.
Well, it sounds like to me, at least through this entire interview, you've been on edge. You've been tripping over your words. You're nervous around me. You dislike it. Yeah, no, it was a delight having you, Batty. Appreciate you sitting down with me for a little bit and just talking about what you do and how you do it.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And again, this has been Art Block. I'm going to keep releasing these out at the end of the month. I will eventually find a way to end these. As it stands right now, Battery Batty. Look him up on Twitter. Where can they find you? How does this work?
You can find me on Twitter, Tapas, Tumblr. I have a card that's linked on my Twitter that just has all my sites and stuff. I'm on YouTube and Twitch. Just look up Battery Batty online. You'll probably find me somewhere. And if you find my Twitter, just click on my card. It has all my websites and stuff. Might be opening commissions up soon, considering my schedule has just cleared up, considering I'm graduating college.
Hey, congratulations, my friend.
Thank you. But yeah, man, I really can't wait for the next art block when Redacted shows up.
Redacted? Dan, cut the audio right here. Cut it.